All right, so now I'm going to show you how to actually go into LinkedIn, into Sales Navigator, and build your first list of prospects so you can actually start messaging people and getting some conversations going. So have a look at my screen here, and first thing you need to know is that you need to have upgraded your LinkedIn to the premium Sales Navigator version by now. So go and do that if you haven't done that already. Now if you've done that, the way that you go to Sales Navigator is in the top right of my screen. Click on Sales Nav, and then it'll bring you to the back end of LinkedIn where you can actually build your list. What you want to do is you want to click on Lead Filters, and now it'll show you all the different criteria and all the filters you have so that you can play around with it and really build your perfect list. There's also Lead, and then there's Account. Account means like company, so you can actually have some information about the company there, such as company headcount, industry, even shows you their revenue too. But first, let's look through Lead Filters. Now, I know this looks scary because there's like a million options here, but you don't need to use all these. These are all pretty much optional. There's a few that you should be using every time, such as company headcount, because again, you don't want huge companies mixed in with small ones. Job title for sure, industry, and geography. Those are the only four that I recommend you use every time. Everything else, consider it optional and just learn to kind of play around with them. So I'm going to explain a few of these that are also very valuable, but I'm not going to go through each one because a lot of them are either self-explanatory or just not usually relevant. So we talked through the most important four. There's company headcount. So you can see here you have a few different options like self-employed, 1 to 10, 11 to 50, 51 to 200. And you can choose more than one, right? So let's say you want to talk to companies that are self-employed but also have up to 10 employees. So again, you can click on a few different options to lump them all together. Job title. Let's say that in this campaign, okay, so just for this example, I'm going to build a list of marketing agencies that are small businesses with under 10 employees, because that's who we work with a lot of Revenue Boost. So I'm going to go through an example of how I would build a list for my business. Now let's say you want to reach the owner. With any job title, you want to type it in a few different ways because everybody on their LinkedIn profile might explain their job a little bit differently. So if you're trying to reach a business owner, you would put in owner, co-owner, founder, co-founder, and then put in a couple others too. Like usually a lot of times, someone might call themselves the CEO, even if they're the owner of the business. So put that one in there too. And if you're trying to reach the owner, that should be fine. And if you're trying to reach a different job title, it should almost always show up. So you could see project manager. You could type in IT and see what comes up. You type in marketing, everything under marketing should show up. Marketing specialist, marketing manager, marketing director. So again, whatever you're doing, LinkedIn should have the job title. Just make sure to type it in a few different ways because, lots of people explain their job a little bit differently. You also have function, which means department, and then also seniority level. But if you're using the job title, you don't need to use these as well because they kind of just tend to mix together. So just choose one of these three. Spotlights is pretty cool. Again, now we're getting into the not necessary but helpful filters. And spotlights are based on their activity on LinkedIn. So one cool spotlight is someone that's changed job in the last 90 days because if somebody just changed to a new job, that's actually a pretty good indicator that they might be open to your services, right? They're probably coming into a new job, changing a lot of things with their department or with their company, and that's definitely a great time to reach out to someone and try to start a relationship. So that could be very useful. You can even see who's been mentioned in the news in the last 30 days. This is usually only applicable for bigger companies. Posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days is a good one too. So, a lot of people have LinkedIn accounts that they don't really use often, but if you're running into that problem, you can click on posted on LinkedIn in 30 days, and it'll only show you people that have actually been active and posted something in the last month, has shared experiences with you, and also is following your company. So if you already have a LinkedIn and you have a following on your company, then you can choose this one as well, and you can reach right out to people that already know you, which is pretty cool. Other than that, on the right side, a lot of these you can ignore. It doesn't really matter what their first name is or their last name is. Years of experience can be helpful. Like for our business, we try to avoid people that have been in business for more than 10 years. So that may or may not be relevant to your business. But again, you just got to think back to who your persona is. And if you want to avoid people that are like too much startups or too new to the business, then you would circle all these that are more than 1 year. Here you can put in the geography. So you could put an actual country, like United States, or you could put in a specific state, like Florida. You can even put a city in a city like Los Angeles. So again, just get as specific as you want here, but just realize that the more filters you apply, the smaller your list is going to be. Now, a good list is between maybe 500 and 10,000 people. If you have hundreds of thousands of people in your list, that's probably a good indicator that you haven't gotten specific enough yet, and you have too many different kinds of people mixed in there. And if it's too small, like 100 people, then you're probably going to run through that in a week, so maybe you're being a little bit too specific. So 500 is a good minimum to have, but even just a couple hundred is all right. Just as a rule of thumb, try to stick between 500 and 10,000. So if your list is too big, then you know that you can go explore some of these other filters and drill it down even further. But if it starts getting too small, then you might have to dial it back a bit and kind of prioritize which filters would be the most important. Now, that's lead filters, which basically applies to the person, but you can also go to account filters and even get some information about the company. So when you have upgraded to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you have a lot more data on all the people inside the database. You can even search by their revenue. I think for most people, going to businesses 1 million and up is great. Any business that's doing a few $100,000 a year usually doesn't have that much budget to hire, contractors or agencies. So as a good rule of thumb, if you're targeting businesses with at least $1 million or more in revenue, then most likely they're going to be able to afford what you do. But of course, it depends what you're selling. So that's a really great filter. Here you can also choose the industry that they're in. Just like we spoke about before, you can choose a few different industries. So in my case, if I'm trying to target marketing agencies, I would choose advertising services. Let's see if marketing services comes up. Business consulting comes up. So again, whatever industry you're going after, try to pick a few different industries because again, someone might enter in their profile differently than what you than the first term you put in. Maybe for my case, I'd put communications. Let's see if that pops up. Media, and that's it. So now we have a couple industries here. All right, that's probably what I'll leave it at for this side. If you click see all filters, then you'll get a couple more. Also, you can even target companies that have had funding events in the last 12 months. So if the types of companies you work with are usually, backed by investment or VCs, then you can actually filter out only to the ones that have, received money and investment in the last 12 months, which is pretty cool. And those are really all the most relevant ones that I want to show you. Again, if you use too many, it might get too small, so you just want to be careful of that. Also, you can type in a keyword. So most of the time, I would recommend using a keyword, and you can type in a few as well. So what this will do is it'll scan their profile to see if that word is there. Let's say I want to reach specifically marketing companies. I would type in marketing agency, and now you'll see my list would have gotten just way smaller. Now there's 200K, it's still pretty big, so I want to make it smaller. For some reason, the job titles disappeared, so let me type that in again. Okay, let's see where we're at now. So again, you're trying to pay attention to the right to how big it is. So 76K is still too big. And I'll drill mine down to people that have just maybe 1 to 5 years of experience. Now we're at 8K, now we're in a good spot. Now, if you can, what I would do every time is I would try to narrow it down to people that have posted in LinkedIn within the last 30 days, because then you'll just avoid messaging people that aren't really active and don't check their LinkedIn. But if that makes your list too small, then I would leave it out. But I'm still at 1.5K here, and all good to go. Now, before you actually go and save your list, what you want to do is you want to just look at the first few profiles on the right. So basically, when you're building your list and choosing the filters, you're kind of guessing a bit as far as what's going to create a good list of companies to work with. The best way to verify it is to look at the first 10 to 20 profiles and see if most of them kind of represent who you want to work with. Obviously, again, your list is not going to be perfect, but if more than half the people on your list seem like they'd be a good fit, then you're good to go and you can save that list. So again, you just pull up the first few profiles, see how it looks, see if it looks relevant to who you would potentially want to work with. And if you're all good, you just click Save Search. Now, when you're naming it, just try to pick some of the main criteria that you chose for the filters, because ultimately you're going to be building several lists over time and kind of testing different audiences. So try to follow a similar format when you're naming them. So for this, I would put marketing agency, 1 to 10 employees, US. So just put some of the main criteria so that you know what it is without having to go back in and look at it. And now it should say your lead search was saved successfully. You click here, and you're good to go. You can go click on it, and when you're ready to go do outreach, you can just go down the list and start connecting with each of the people on the list. All right, so that's how you build a list of prospects in LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the next video.